I'm Martha Hunt, and I love to sew. See if you can see the little curves and the little jewels. I had my own sewing business for about 7 years, but now I have grandkids, so I've quit my business, but still wanted to have people able to learn how to fix things. This is a lace-up closure. We'll work on making the closure loops. So this is gross grain ribbon, 1.5 inches wide. We'll use it because it's strong to help with the closure. First, we'll put it right across the back so we can see how long it needs to be, and then we'll cut it. First, we're going to mark the seam allowance, which is 5/8 of an inch. So right there, so we'll know that's where we're going to start. That part's going to be inside the seam. So we're going to go up 1/2 inch, and this will be our first loop. And then we're going to go 1/2 inch, and put a line here, so I know that's the loop. Now from the beginning of this to the beginning of the next loop is 1¼ inches. So mark that. It's easiest to move it up to the 1 inch again, so you keep getting 1/2 inch marks. And do that all the way down. We will make 2 of these measured exactly the same, 1 for each side. Now I'm going to turn this around so that because I'm right-handed, can work left to right, and we will be pinning these so that each of the loops begins and ends on one of the lines, and it will loop out like that. So let me pin one for you. This top one here may actually get cut off because it's so close to the seam line. But just in case, we'll go ahead and put one on. So we'll put it there, then the next one will go right here, and so forth. We'll sew this down several times, starting with a straight stitch. Then we'll do a zigzag stitch on top of that. Next, we'll fold the sewn part back and do a zigzag stitch through both layers, so one side of the loops will stick out and the other side will be securely sewn down. Pin the loops to the back opening of the dress with the edge of the gross grain ribbon sitting 5/8 inch into the fabric and the rest of the ribbon sticking out. Be sure the loops on the left back match up with the loops on the right back. Now we're going to pin the lining. We have not yet sewn this in. We're just going to pin the lining, put the lining on top of the outer fabric, the right sides together with the gross grain in the middle, kind of like a sandwich. So we'll pin the lining with the pins going the opposite direction. Everything may not line up perfectly, but the only line that really matters is the sewing line. And so you can kind of see here where the gross grain comes through. Maybe you can see a little bit the shadow of the loops there. And after we sew it, then we will open it back up and make sure that we have covered up all the gross grain and only the loops are showing. We temporarily pinned the armhole and side seams together so they wouldn't move around while we sewed the back. Press the loop line carefully but well. Crisp pressing helps make your work look professional. Once that's done, we'll open it back up, right sides together. Match the darts and then pin and sew the neckline from the top of the loops to the end of the ruching. Then we'll trim off some of the excess, cut the corners, and clip the curves before turning and pressing. Use a dull pencil or the point of the scissors to carefully shape the neckline corners. Use a warm, dry iron to press things in place. Then pin together the outside and lining of the bodice's raw armhole edges and the edges that will be attached to the dress. We're going to zigzag over these edges because they're starting to fray, and because this will go down inside the dress so you won't see it, and this will be sewn in with the sleeves so it will disappear as well. When we're done with this, we will top stitch really close to the neckline so it will hold its shape well. Next, we will baste the front and back piece or shoulders to the dress and add the already made tulip sleeves that we removed from the jacket. To see how we attach this, go to our Adding Shoulders video. We have all of the loops done in the dress, but as you can see, there would be skin showing, which is how it was to begin with. When it just came down to about here, there was nothing behind it. So I measured from the top here down to the zipper was 18 inches. And then it was about this far open when we put it on Av. So I did it 7 inches. We added 1/2 inch to all 4 sides of the pattern for the seam. So what I'm going to show you is how to make a little insert like this, but we'll be sewing it into the back on one side and then putting Velcro, the soft side of the Velcro over here and the rough side on here, so that you can put it where you want it. And then just tuck this in, and as you lace it up, it will hold that in place. Wax paper is one of my favorite friends because you can see through it. If you see a sign like this, that means to place it on a fold. Since we're cutting on the fold line, we'll be dividing our width numbers in half. So we'll use a measuring tape and mark. So if we're doing 7 inches, that's 3.5. I will mark 3.5 down here. So the bottom will be smaller, and as we'll mark that at 2.5. We're just going to draw a line from the top to the bottom. I'll make the line across the top straight. We're ready to cut it out. Because we will want 2, a front and a back, I'll be folding this fabric in half and start pinning it. So when you open this up, you'll see there's shiny on both sides. When you sew it, the shiny needs to be on the inside. But before we do that, we're going to get this little 5-inch piece of Velcro, but we only need a little bit. And we're going to use the scratchy side, this, and kind of pin it so it will end up where we want it in the dress. After pinning the scratchy part of the Velcro where you want it, straight stitch around all 4 sides and clip the threads. After we sew this down, then we will pin the shiny side to the shiny side and sew all the way around, except for a little spot here that we'll put double pins to remind us the starting, the ending, and keep a little opening here. Trim up the corners so we can flip it through. Trim the threads and check to see that you've sewn around the Velcro, not on it. Trim the corners and turn the insert right side out using scissors to push out all 4 corners. Now you can see there's the little opening, and we've pressed it so it kind of disappears. We're just going to sew it by machine. Do it by machine. We're done. Now we're going to pin it in just under, see this little top stitching, just a little bit under there, because when you close it, it's okay if it comes just a little bit under. Pin insert inside dress all the way down the left side. Check to see that it fits properly and then hand stitch it into the back of the dress. The tricky part is to make sure you don't catch the outside layer when you're sewing the inside layers. You kind of keep your fingers under it so you make sure it doesn't get snagged. I just keep my hands down under there, and if I feel the needle getting close, most of the time I can avoid that. Pin the other piece of Velcro soft side up inside the upper right corner of the bodice back so it will overlap with the scratchy Velcro on the insert. Hand stitch and check as you go along to see that the stitches don't go through the top layer. When you're finished, make sure the 2 Velcro pieces match up correctly. And we're done! The inside looks as good as the outside. Now we need to have Av try it on and lace up the back. You'll need about 3 yards of ribbon or lacing.